Hello, crew. How are we doing? Welcome to our online public speaking lecture for week 8, which week 8, we are literally halfway done with the semester, which is insane. You've already got 2 speeches under your belt, 2 more coming up, and yeah, literally it goes by so fast. But we just finished our informative speeches. So I kind of want y'all to be thinking in your brains, just have it fresh. Like, what did you see? What are things that you felt like you did really great on? Things that you felt like for your next speech you want to do better and you want to work on? Any kudos to people over their speeches? Be thinking about that because I know it'll be like 2 weeks from now, but have it in your brain, write it down because we'll be talking about that for our question of the day when we get back in person after spring break. Um, Things I saw, I'll talk about this in person, but genuinely, like, everyone had an improvement from their demo speech. Um, it's a completely different experience going from recording to yourself, having all the time in the world to start, to stop, to plan, to just like all the planning, all the practicing you did, it in this 5 minute and 30-second window, I just gotta trust that I had it, you know? So, but I in my opinion, y'all did really great for this being your first time speaking in front of people. And I'm very impressed. So you should be proud of yourselves. Okay, let's get the show on the road. So today we're going to be talking about, there we go, persuasive speaking. And I'm going to tailor this specifically to our pitch speech coming up, where we're going to be using, and we'll also go into Monroe's motivated sequence, which is the organizational pattern we are using. So I'll kind of gear the persuasive speaking towards our upcoming speech. And then after this speech, we'll go over persuasive speaking again, but tailored more towards our last persuasive speech at the end. Okay. Get your notes out, get your Google Docs, whatever the hell you use. And let's get started. Okay, so for our goals for our persuasive speech, let's think about what are we trying to do? What's the point of it? First off, our goal for this speech is to win over your listeners. For any persuasive speech, you only succeed if you have won over your audience, right? And this is just you win by convincing them to think a certain way or to do something. So, say you give a speech to convince your audience to donate blood, and then afterwards they go and donate blood, or they encourage others to do it as well, or you've changed their way of thinking of like, oh, like this is a very positive thing. That helps a lot of people. Like, I should be thinking more about it, right? So you win over your listeners if you've convinced them to think or to do something. Next, your goals for this speech is to know your subject thoroughly. If you are not knowledgeable and competent in the eyes of the audience, I mean, you have lost your persuasive power. Think about even just in our informative speeches, right? If people delivery wise, like citation research wise, if we didn't see them as credible, if they didn't have it planned out, they didn't seem confident and solid, the way we viewed them was kind of like, okay, like I feel like I'm not getting the whole picture about this topic they're talking about, right? So, and especially in a sense, in like a place where you're trying to lead people, you're trying to persuade them, you're trying to change the way they're thinking. Oh my gosh, your credibility is everything. So, this is not a last minute type of thing when it comes to persuasion. Like, you need to know your subject, you need to be the expert, right? Or at least just be viewed as the expert through your delivery, through your content. And lastly, our last goal is to maintain a high standard of ethical behavior, right? This is avoiding manipulation, deceit. This is using supports that are truthful and accurate, not exaggerating numbers. I think we talked about this when it comes to being like an ethical speaker. And we most of the time, right, we don't mean it in a negative way, right? We just want to do our best. We want to persuade people. We want people to come on our side, but we have to give them the facts as it is, right? We don't want to just pick and choose certain sentences out of context. We don't want to round up a percentage just to make it look better. We want to give them the facts and use the facts and then our persuasive power to persuade them, right? You don't want to lead someone astray just because of inaccurate research, inaccurate facts. Like as people, we're already skeptical when people are trying to get us to do something that we haven't done before or we don't want to do. So making sure you're respected, I say respected, but just like you are seen as a credible, truthful person, that will lead you so much faster than someone finding out like they lied about these things or these things didn't add up, right? So these are our goals: winning over your listeners, knowing your subject thoroughly, and maintaining a high standard of ethical behavior. So the different types of persuasive speaking we have is first a speech to influence thinking, and then we have a speech to motivate action. So our speech to influence thinking, that's going to be more our persuasive speech towards the end. So I'm going to focus more on our speech to motivate action, but I want our brains to be already thinking about the difference between them. So influencing thinking, exactly as it sounds, it's an effort to convince people to adopt your position on a particular subject, where the speech to motivate action is you're trying to win people over to your way of thinking by convincing them to take action. The difference between influencing thinking is just, oh, I'm going to think about this differently now. Where if I'm trying to motivate action, I want my audience to be like, okay, I'm going to sign this. I'm going to donate blood. I am going to recycle more, right? It's an action. It's changing their behavior. So let's go deeper into our motivating action. So a speech to motivate action, again, it's trying to convince people over to your way of thinking by convincing them to take this action, right? There's different ways to go about this. It can look like starting a new behavior. It could be persuading them to continue a behavior, or it can be convincing them to stop a behavior, right? So some examples of like specific purposes, remember at the top of your outline, we have that to inform my audience, to persuade my audience. That's our specific purpose. So a couple of them would be like to persuade my listeners to sign a petition aimed at requiring drivers over 75 be retested each year for their driver's license. So there, I'm persuading my audience, my listeners, to sign a petition. To persuade my audience to stop overspending on their credit card accounts. So I'm persuading my audience to stop a behavior, to stop overspending. And then lastly, we have to persuade my listeners to contact their representatives in Congress to demand mandatory background checks on all gun purchases. So I am persuading my listeners to contact, to call people, to email them, to email their representatives. So these are all topics where I am making sure my audience is doing something. I'm convincing them to do it. And when it comes to these, right, to motivate action, some tips I want you to think about is first you have to ask like for the precise action that you want. Don't assume that your audience knows like, oh, I know like since they're talking about this, I know I need to sign this petition. I know I need to recycle. No, you need to out loud tell them like in your conclusion, we'll get there with Monroe's motivated sequence, but at the end of your speech, you're going to be like, You need to do this right now, you know? And so that's also another aspect. So whenever it's possible, you want to get a response before your listeners leave the room. Why? Right? It's easy to be like, when you get home, do X, Y, and Z. And most of the time, that's just not going to happen. Think of all the times where like someone has given you like a pamphlet and is like, you can go to this website and do this. And you're like, yeah, 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 I'll do that when I get home. Life just happens. We're busy, we forget, right? It's usually not out of malintent or you not caring. It's genuinely because you just forget. So the best way to go about it is to get whatever the action is done in that room before they leave. So an example of this would be like if you need them to use their phones or social media, be like log on to Facebook or X and join the National Crusade Against Abuse of Workers on an American Corporation. Or right now, send a text to make a donation to X, Y, and Z at this number. Here's a paper, sign this petition. Here's a QR code with the petition. Sign it right now before you leave. Um, or can people show me with a show of hands, like a promise to recycle moving forward? Um, or even like if you're convincing people to volunteer somewhere, doing something, right? Literally having a sign up sheet passing around in the audience, being like, I'm passing around this sign up sheet right now. Sign up to volunteer just an hour of your time to help people in need, blah, 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 right? So after your speech, not after your speech, but in your conclusion, literally don't let them leave until they've done the action that you need them to do. Whether it's scanning a QR code, whether it's following someone, tweeting someone, signing a petition, signing a volunteer sheet, whatever it is, make them do it before they leave. So, so important. So now that we've talked about what persuasive speaking is, some tactics of it, specifically our speech to motivate action, now we're going to talk about patterns of organization. Again, right, we are going to talk about Monroe's motivated sequence now, and then problem solution, statement of reasons, and comparative advantages. We'll go over those after we've done our pitch speech and when we're going to our persuasive speech at the end. So we're just focusing on Monroe's motivated sequence for now, but I want you to kind of have in your head the different organizational patterns together. So just a brief overview because we're about to literally go in, but Monroe's motivated sequence is useful when it comes to like selling a product or a service or when you want to mobilize listeners to take a specific action. So the 5 steps of this, right? So this is how your outline is going to be organized, right? Like attention, need, satisfaction, visualization, action. So you have the attention, which we're used to, the need, satisfaction, visualization, and then our actions like our conclusion. We're about to go so much further into this, but I just want us to have a overview of what it is, what it looks like before we kind of go deeper into this. But basically, what this is going to look like in your outline is that attention, think of it as your intro. Need, that's your main point 1. Satisfaction, main point 2. Visualization, main point 3. And then action is your conclusion. Got it? So our intro, our body, and our conclusion. So now that we've gone over briefly organizational patterns, specifically the one we're going to use in our MMS, our pitch speech, now let's kind of talk about after the speech, what that looks like, especially when it comes to persuasion. I think a big, like for this class, once you make your speech, you're done with this assignment, and you're just waiting for your grade. But in the professional world, you want to make sure that the message has spread from the people in the room to their colleagues, to their supervisors, to their family, whoever it is. And the best way to do that is to have leave behinds. Um, so in this case, right, you can leave behind a summary. So this is a condensed version of your key information, right? So just like a piece. So think of these like pieces of paper, and we'll go into other things, but right, you could have a little summary that you give everyone so then they can take after you've done your presentation, after you've done your TED Talk, whatever it is. Then you have memory aids. So that an example of this could be like cards that can be placed in a wallet or a purse for future reference. Um, I one time got like this, it was truly like a little business card type thing. And on the front and back, it had the top, like it's called like I think it's called the 30, the 30, the dirty 10 and then the clean 7. I believe so. But so on one side is like the most pesticide, like GMO, nasty, like fruits and vegetables. That's like 1 through 10. And then on the backside is the cleanest 1 through 7 fruits and vegetables. So what it basically means is I can put that in my purse or my wallet. Then when I'm grocery shopping, I'm like, oh shoot, what should I get organic? Or am I okay not getting organic? I would take that out and be like, okay, the dirty 10, I'm pretty sure strawberries are number one and like spinach is second. So it's something that I can use for future reference while I'm shopping to like help me out. But it's literally it just says dirty 10, 1 through 10, and has each vegetable like in order. So that would be a good example of a memory aid. Then we have graphics. So this is copies of graphics, diagrams, tables. This could literally just be you like printing out or emailing the different graphics that you use, specifically if it showed like important numbers, or if you're like, this is what I can do for the company, like this is the amount of um, I don't want to say progress isn't the word I'm looking for, but the amount, oh gosh. Can you tell I'm a teacher and I don't work in the business world? Um, but yeah, just tables, diagrams, graphics that you use that would be super helpful for them to see. Even just like if you used it in a PowerPoint behind you, them having it in front of them is also super helpful to kind of help them simmer on it, look more closely at it, look deeper at it, so they have a full understanding. Next is new points. So this could look like a pamphlet, um, like, and I'm sure a lot of y'all feel this way, where, especially with your informative speech, there was so much to talk about, especially if you're passionate about it, and it was hard to stay in that time limit. So feel free, right? Like, only go over the important stuff that needs to be talked about, but then on a piece of paper, on a pamphlet, on a little whatever it is, have all these all this other information like a in if you're super interested in this or if you want a deeper understanding, I've put more information on this pamphlet, on this flyer for you that you can read at your own time, right? So that's super helpful, especially if you're like, there's so much to talk about. Boom, there you go. Next is sources and websites. So this kind of goes along with the new points, but this would be a great, like, with your informative speech, if you gave everyone like a list of your sources, like, oh my gosh, that would help your credibility like no other. But even just in the business sense, like all the research I did, here it is. You can look for it yourself, or even like talking about certain like research studies, right? That maybe you've only taken like a sentence out of. You can be like, hey, if you want to look further into this research, here's the link, here's the all the information you need so you can see how I built my argument and right, it adds credibility and even lets people like if they're super interested in this be like, "Oh my gosh, I want to know more. I want to see the research on this, what people are saying." That's also another good takeaway I would leave behind to give. Next is samples. So this is a tangible reminder of your message. So this is truly like the perfect example is like if you're selling lotion, you provide a sample. I added this on the pitch speech. Um, one of my students last semester, she had like a rubber ducky because her whole thing was like she wanted to get funding to build this ideal pool. She was like a swimmer. And she had like these rubber duckies that were like takeaway. I think they had candy. I'm not sure, but um you can see in the picture, I forgot. But um yeah, like providing a sample. Like if someone's gonna persuade you to buy their lotion, like that's why the people at the mall, they're like, try it because once you try it, they know they got you. You know what I mean? So any samples of a product that you were trying to sell, you're trying to convince people to buy, that's a perfect way to do that. And it's also super engaging. People love that. Next is multimedia. So this would be just like providing a USB with information that can provide bonus material. Kind of goes along with like new points, sources, and websites. Anything that'd be extra, or even just, hey, here's a USB, or I'm going to um, send out a PDF of my PowerPoint, of my research, of all my um, materials so then you have it at home. And then you can even add any extra stuff that would be helpful for them. Lastly is file folders. So this is just labeled folders to keep information organized for your audience. Like have you been to like a meeting or some type of conference and you had just like a folder, you open it and it has all the materials in there ready to go? That's exactly what we're talking about. So that's like if you were in a business meeting, or you were doing an assignment for class, you literally print out all the different, and this could be like your graphics, your summary, any memory aids. You could put all of that in the file folders. And so everyone has like access to it. They all have the different materials. And outside of just continuing, like we said, like if you don't win your audience over, you did not succeed in your persuasive speech. Truly, like, yes, this helps push your message even further than in your short amount of time you have in front of your audience. But also doing things like this shows that you care. It shows like your credibility, your knowledge, your effort, right? If people put in effort, we see that and we even if they don't know what the hell they're talking about, we just perceive it as okay, like they know what they're doing because look at all the effort they've put in. Like they wouldn't have cared like if they didn't do it, if they weren't putting in this effort. So, although it's a great way to leave your message behind, which is a super important factor to the persuasive speech, it also adds to your credibility, which is another important aspect of your persuasive speech. Okay, so now that we've gone over just the basis of what persuasive speaking is, what we're looking for, what are different options we can use with organizational patterns, ways to promote and prolong our message to our audience, build that credibility, right? We have a good idea about that. So now we're going to get into Monroe's motivated sequence. But before we do that, I want you to pause this video. I then want you to go back to D2L week 8, and I want you to watch the example infomercial 1 and the example infomercial 2. They will literally take you 3 minutes maximum. So pause the video, watch those, and come back. While we do that, I'm going to drink water. Okay, crew, let's get into Monroe's motivated sequence. So this is the organizational pattern that we will be using for our pitch speech. So our next two speeches are both persuasive. They're just going to be organized differently. Again, this is going to be to motivate action, where your other speech is going to be to motivate a change of thinking. So let's get into our Monroe's motivated sequence. We already went over, how this will look in your outline, how the setup is going to look like for this organizational pattern. Your attention is your intro. Your need is your main point 1. Your satisfaction is your main point 2. Your visualization is your main point 3. And lastly, your conclusion is your action. So although it feels like very different, it really is not that different when it comes to your outline, right? It just has a different name. The most important thing about your Monroe's motivated sequence too, that I will say over and over and over again, is that these need to be in order. You cannot get into your need before your attention. You can't get into your satisfaction in the attention. You can't put your action before your visualization. It has to be in order. Why? Because if it doesn't, you will get points off and not be happy with your grade. So I think that is the most difficult aspect of Monroe's motivated sequence. I also think students think that it's super different than what we're doing, and it really is not, right? So I'll stop yapping about and let's get into what each point means, how it looks, how can we use it, etc. So our first one is attention. So this is to get your audience's attention, right? We've been doing this with our attention getter. This is nothing new and different. But with your attention, it's going to be the same with your introduction. You're still going to have your topic. You're still going to have your audience relevance, your credibility, and previewing your points. That's all going to be the same. So after attention, then we get into our need. So this is drawing on the needs of your specific audience. So what's their problem? What is their pain point? And that's what I want you for this. I want you to get as creative as you can. I want you to think about your specific audience, your topic, and I want you to just push and push and push on that pain point. Building out this is going to be very important for then when you finally satisfy their need. Because there's a possibility your audience is going to be like, I don't have a need. I don't really need this. I don't really care what you're talking about. In this need, you are going to hit on every single thing, push on that pain point to the point where you get your audience to be like, "Oh shoot, okay. I didn't even know I had a problem, but now I do. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do about that?" Oh, you have a problem now? That's great because I have a solution, which is your satisfaction. So that is just what satisfies the need or the problem that you just presented. So your satisfaction is literally the product. It's the, I don't know another word for it. Just like the solution, the topic of your speech. This is where you will reveal it. You won't reveal it anywhere else. Keep it hidden. Keep your cards close to you So then that satisfaction hits. They're like, oh my gosh, okay. Then we get into visualization. So this is just what does your life look like with your solution? And what does your life look like without your solution? So with my solution, your life is rainbows and butterflies and sunshine and happiness. Without my solution is tornadoes, it's hellfire, it's disease, it's uh depression, right? Show us life with, life without. Then we get into our conclusion or our action, which is the whole point of this speech is to motivate action. So this is you're urging the audience to take action, which, like I said, what do you need your audience to do? Be specific. Are they going to write their name on a petition? Are they going to scan a QR code and fill out this information? Are they going to um give you money? Like you need the whole point of this at the end is you need to exchange something. You need something from your audience for this action to be successful, specifically for your pitch speech. You can't just be like, you need to donate blood. No, like you need to get something from your audience members, a signature, a phone number, pretend money, right? Whatever it is. Okay. So now that we've gone through each one of these, what they are, I want to kind of break it down and bring it back to our infomercials that we watched, right? So our Sylvan one is pretty, right? They're both infomercials. They're not as built out or a perfect example of what I want you to do, but it kind of gets your mind into the state of like, okay, what are we talking about? What does this look like? What does the pitch really mean? And so I've kind of broken down each one of these so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So, in our attention, so let's use our proactive Justin Bieber infomercial. So, for the attention, literally, it's Justin Bieber. It's him playing the guitar in the studio, and he goes, "Hey guys, Justin Bieber here." Because then we look up and we're like, "What is Justin Bieber about to tell us about?" Right? So they just use like a celebrity endorsement for their attention. Then we get to the need. Um, so for this one, he starts talking about things that come with being a teenager. He talks about your feet growing bigger, hormones kicking in, and then lastly he talks about acne. And he says, "But I can stop that." So that's building the need of like, okay, we are all teenagers. This is what's going on. And a big need we have is acne. And there is a solution. Let me tell you about it in my satisfaction. That's why I use proactive. And then in that, right, that's why I use proactive. That is the satisfaction. Before that, Justin Bieber didn't talk about proactive. He didn't say anything about it until he hit the satisfaction. That's why I use proactive. Then in your satisfaction, you give us all the information we need to know about the solution, about the product. So they tell us about how it works, that it's a three-step system, it works on all skin types, right? We get an idea of what proactive is, what the proactive system is, how it will help us, um, who it works on specifically. It works on everyone. Do not worry, blah, 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 blah. So our satisfaction is getting us all the information we need to know about the product, the solution, everything. Then once we've hit the satisfaction, we go into our visualization. I will say for our proactive commercial, they kind of jump in between satisfaction, visualization, and action. It's not in order, right? So that is the downfall of this infomercial, but we can pick out the things that they did do. So in visualization, right, life with, life without, that's them showing the pictures of the before and after, right? This was me before I used Proactive. Now look at how great my skin is without it. So then we have those visualizations, but then also later they have the two testimonials of um but when I use Proactive now, blah 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 blah. My life before Proactive was awful and horrible, and I never was able to find anything that worked for me until I found Proactive. So those testimonials, those are a great use of visualization as well. Then, and again, the action, they literally put like in between satisfaction and visualization. But we get to taking action. So, how can us, the audience, get proactive? You can have all of this for $19.99, and if you order now, we'll throw in a zip mask for free. You just need to call the number. So, this is literally like call now and you get this for this amount of money. If you give us this money, call us, you can have it. And then an important thing I want to point out is that they have the action, but then they have a strong concluding statement where Justin Bieber says, like, call the number now and be proactive. Boom. Iconic. That's actually so sick as a concluding statement for proactive. So that's what that looks like using MMS. Like that is how they use the MMS sequence or Monroe's motivated sequence. Now let's break down the Sylvan one. The Sylvan one's a lot simpler. They didn't build out anything. It was really quick. It was to the point. I would want you to build out a lot more. I think for both of these, the attention is not exactly what I'm looking for, right? I want it to be a proper intro, but, right, again, these are just good examples to get your brain in there. So for the Sylvan commercial, the attention is just the kids swimming in the pool and the guy saying, summers are great, right? So we see him in the pool, we're talking about summer, we got our attention. Then the need is, but kids can actually lose 2.5 months of what they learned in school. Oh no, that's a big problem. My kid experiences that, or I don't want my kid to be like that. Do not fret. Keep them on track with Sylvan. Then it goes into the director who works there, and it shows us exactly how it works, what skills they're going to be using and working on, how long the program is, and how many weeks is this going to happen, right? Then we get to our visualization, which is they talk about the pre and post assessment. You'll see an improvement of 1 grade level of your kid's math and reading. So with Sylvan, your kid's life is going to be what? I apologize about the doggies. If you can hear them. A 1 grade improvement, right? That's life with Sylvan. Then we get into our action. So have a summer to remember and call 1-800-EDUCATE now. Boom. What do you need to do? You need to call this number right now to have a summer to remember. Boom. I don't know if y'all were convinced by their MMS sequence, but I was convinced. I told my mom, I need Sylvan. My mom's like, you don't need Sylvan. Be so for real. Anyways, yeah. So that is MMS looking at using our two infomercials. So now I'm going to have another example. I know y'all are like, get out of here. But like I said, this is so important, and I feel like a lot of people get confused, and I just want to make sure you have all the examples you need to be successful, to know exactly what I'm talking about, so your pitch speech, boom, bam, bop, you're going to kill it. Okay, so first, let's get into our example. So this is attention. So grabbing the listener's attention. This photo shows cars parked in a hot parking lot on a summer day. The windows are rolled up, and when the owners return, they will have to endure stifling heat until their air conditioning cools the interior. So I'm kind of describing this scene where you can kind of feel it. It's almost an imagine this, but it's very like narrative storytelling type of attention getter. And again, like I said, I need a thesis, audience relevance, credibility, and previewing points. Next is the need. So this is describing the problem that needs action. In this parking lot, the car's asphalt and concrete are absorbing the sun's energy and retaining heat, making an urban heat island. We need to find a way to keep our cars cool and stop wasting all of this solar energy, and instead use it to our advantage, right? We're building what the problem is. The car's asphalt concrete absorb sun's energy and retain heat, right? This is a big problem. So let's satisfy this. The solution is to park our cars under a solar canopy that protects them from blazing heat, and at that same time converts all the solar energy into electricity. This solar canopy is one of 4 canopies that protects 600 cars at federal buildings in Denver, Colorado. They save the U.S. government about $500,000 in electricity costs each year, and they provide plug-in charging stations for electric cars. Right? So let's think about, they didn't tell us what exactly the solution was going to be until the satisfaction. They also are giving us a full view of what the solution looks like. First off, what it will look like, how many, how much money, but it also shows an example of this already being done. So it's a great way to persuade because you're like, someone else is already doing it. So this isn't a crazy idea, and this is how they did it. So I think using an example in that is awesome. So now let's get into our visualization. So it's helping the audience visualize the results. With solar canopies at a mall, this couple can drive away in a car that doesn't need a blast of air conditioning to cool down. Not only are they comfortable, but they are saving money on the cost of gasoline to power the air conditioner. I think this is a great way to build that life with it, but also I just personally slash rubric wise, I want to see life with and I want to see life without. I really want you to practice building those. So only thing it's lacking in this example is the life without. And life without would be similar to the attention, right? With the solar canopies at a mall, this couple can drive away in a car that doesn't need a blast of air conditioning to cool down. Not only are they comfortable, but they are saving money on the cost of gasoline to power the air conditioner. Without the solar canopy at the mall, this couple is going to get into their 90-degree car already sweating, dying of heat, having to wait a second before they can even pull out, or they can't even sit down on the leather seats because they are just so hot they'll burn them, right? Really build that picture for us. And then lastly, our action. So please sign my petition to request solar canopies for our campus. This petition includes information about how many millions of dollars the college can save in electricity bills in the coming decades, and also includes a request for plug-in charging stations so that students can get free electricity supplied while they are in class. Boom, sign my petition. Great action. They don't really have a good concluding statement. If this is the concluding statement, it sucks. But, right, this is the action. So, we've gone over, right, general tips for improving our persuasive speeches, by maintaining clarity, using compelling storytelling, incorporating visuals effectively, and engaging with the audience, right? As well as going over our Monroe's Motivated sequence. We gave you three different types of examples to use. Um, so yeah, now you are ready to start doing your in-class challenge. A big thing also I want to touch on, which we will touch on again because this is going to be so important. But when it comes to your attention, remember I said I want this to look like um, your intro, right? I still want the topic, I still want the relevance, credibility, previewing points. So people will ask me, how do I introduce the topic without revealing my satisfaction? And I think in here, and I put this in your outline example or outline template on D2L, but tease us. Like, give us enough where we have an idea of what you're talking about, but we don't know exactly like the specifics of it, right? So if you're going to be, like we said, talking about cars, the topic in it is like you're talking about cars in a way to satisfy a problem we all have. So you're going to be more coy. You're kind of going to tease us a little, but not show us all your cards. And then satisfaction is when you reveal the topic itself. Say, like, a perfect example of this is a specific product. So, if you were trying to sell us, let's say, um, the, oh gosh, I can't even think of one right now. Um, the backpack 5000 that alerts you when you are low on certain supplies, like pencils, or your laptop is low on battery, right? In my attention, I'm not going to say, like in my speech, I'm going to talk about my product, which is the Backpack 5000, right? You already revealed that satisfaction. Today, I'm going to have a product that a lot of us, right? Then you kind of get into your relevancy. A product that all of us deal with these problems day in, day out as college students. Um, you can even say like we all wear one going to class. We all put all of our things in this, right? So I'm teasing you where you can kind of guess it's a backpack, but I'm not telling you, oh, this is the backpack 5000 that does X, Y, and Z, right? So we'll go over that again in class if you have any questions, but I know that's going to be a question, so I'm already going to touch on it. Okay, so now that we're done with our lecture, keep going down the checklist in D2L. Go to your watch Dr. Hanlon's video on MMS, take some notes that are important for it because she really goes through in depth. Watch that first, then do your challenge, which write on D or on like a Google Doc, submit that to get full credit. Review your pitch speech. This is important because our visuals are going to be a little different. And go through that rubric. I also have an example of a visual. You have two different options, but read through that. And then for when we see each other in person again, that question of the day, I'm going to ask for three topics that you're thinking for it, just to make sure we are on the right page. So be thinking of what different topics for your pitch speech you want to do. And lastly, have a great spring break. Everyone be safe. Everyone at least do something fun and productive. Um, Lay in the sun. Pretend you're at the beach if you're not going to one, but okay. I will see y'all after spring break. Okay. Bye, y'all.